We're back at it. Welcome back, everybody. I'm looking at the camera now because it's like I'm looking at you. You don't have to look at the camera. So we start. You should see us side by side here, and then we will move to see whoever's talking. But yeah, welcome back. Life lessons, episode 3.
Yes.
Yeah. We're getting them through. Joe Rogan's at about 1,000, so we've got some work to do. But you know, you have to go one step at a time. We got to keep pumping out the content. I hope everyone is enjoying it who is watching. But me and Amir are enjoying making it. So this podcast is fun as hell. It's fun as hell. It's something to do right now as well.
It's not really that much work, to be honest. And if someone can get just like a little bit of value from it, then I suppose it's a win-win for them and for us.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, it's like you could look at YouTube and see, especially like the world we live in right now, the internet is like, oh, you only get 10 views, 20 views. It's like, you know, if one person watches it and gains, like they've listened to it and they've gained some value from it, then it's worth it. That's the mindset you got to take, because people are too focused on numbers. Like if they got 1,000 views, it's suddenly validated. It's like, well, we enjoy making it. And if we have 10 people, you know, if we can get 100 people that watch it and like it consistently, then that'd be great. And then you can grow from there. It'd be cool if we could get like 100, like hundreds of people watching consistently by maybe the end of the year. Like if we get 100 views every time, at least, maybe that'd be cool. I think
that'd be nice.
We've got about 50. I think you'll get to 100 views eventually. Like by I mean like quite quickly. I guess people watching it as they come out. But anyway, so this is podcast life lessons, we called it, because we want to do the podcast about the lessons you learn in life, funny enough. And there's a thing that not many people talk about, but the worlds of self-improvement, self-development, but not just that, also spirituality and stuff, or whatever things you learn that have helped give you new ideas for yourself and help you learn about yourself more, or made you a more confident person doing certain things, or anything like that, anything psychological. Just talking through things and hopefully having some deep conversations, not just like shooting the breeze, like, you know, and you have to start with, how you been this week, and then from there you can unfold. So I'll just ask Amir, how has life been like since lockdown? Oh, as like a big bubble, and like in general.
It's been pretty boring, to be honest. Like there's not a whole lot of activities that someone could do, because of the fact that we have a set of restrictions that have been placed on us for our own well-being and for the well-being of others. And I completely understand and respect that, but we have to do our best with our time and our resources. And at the moment, I think it's very, very easy to make excuses and become lazy, because of the fact that I think many people, including myself, hold the assumption that other people are doing the same thing that they are doing, because we're all placed under the same set of restrictions. Because of that, I think that quite a lot of us have gotten lazy. I myself have gotten lazy. I'm not doing much. I'm trying to get more active, trying to be more healthy, trying to go out for walks. But it's one step at a time. It's an incremental process, and it's going to take time. And I think that as lockdown eases, as things get better, things will get better for us all. And I think it's going in the right trajectory from here. So I don't think it's too bad, to be honest, man.
It's funny because when this first started, I was exercising like crazy. Maybe it was because I was with my parents and my brother as well, and we'd always do it together. But yeah, I was doing like workouts, press ups, runs, go bike rides every day. Since I've been in Brighton, by myself. Maybe it's just the gym's opening soon, and I thought, well, you know, I can get back to normal soon. But I haven't been exercising that much. But you have to try to find the positives, I guess. And I feel like people have learned stuff about themselves in this lockdown.
I
it's a
definitely
struggle,
agree.
You know? Yeah, it's going through a struggle. I mean, this is I mean, the only thing that's close to this is, you know, if you had a nation that was at war, it's like, obviously we'd not be in the war, but if you were back in the country and there's just this big thing happened to you and you've got restrictions on your life and you're wondering when your life will get back to normal. It reminds me of the stories my nan used to tell me in the Blitz, where like putting like blacking out the windows was just how it was, and that's humans. We love to adapt. So this crazy situation has just become normal very quickly. Like the idea of not having the virus, like, oh, I can't imagine the world without a virus now. Even though this is something that, if you asked me last year, if you told me last year when I was, or the beginning of this year at uni in September, oh yeah, the second half of this year is going to be cancelled because of a worldwide pandemic virus that kills, like, I don't know, how probably kill 1 million people by the end of this, and you'd be like, nah, you'd call bullshit, because that's crazy. But people have rose to the challenge, and I think people, the struggle of being by yourself and potentially people being isolated away from people and being lonely and getting depressed, people trying to power through the hard times will come out at the end of this stronger people and better people. And they'll know themselves more.
I definitely agree with that, man. I was thinking that those troublesome and harsh times that your grandmother went through is a lot worse than what some of the people are now going through. For instance, within this time, I think it's not so bad. Where, like, one of my friends from Toastmasters said, he's actually a police officer, and he said that within this time, our crime level has substantially decreased. More people are going out for walks, more people are more friendly. We're all looking, I think it's brought us together as a community, because we're all looking out for one another. Some more than others, as we know, because toilet rolls all disappeared, but
yeah, it's funny. It's like every man for himself, yet we're all together as well.
But at the same,
yeah, definitely, man.
At the same time, we're all together, man, because we're not focusing so much on the issues that we have with one another. We're predominantly focusing on looking after ourselves, making sure that our neighbor is good, making sure that our family has resources, making sure that we have resources, looking after each other's mental and physical well-being, and living together better as a community overall, as a result of contributing to these, as a result of looking towards these things and factors.
Yeah, I might be able to heat. Could you turn your fan off, and I'll see if it sounds like? Would you?
I'm gonna die in the loft.
Yeah,
it's
maybe.
too hot.
It's okay, to be honest. It's
like double the heat in your house.
I don't think people would notice. That's not a problem, mate.
Wait, how loud is it?
It's just in the background a little bit. It's not too bad, to be honest.
Okay.
I wouldn't worry about it.
Okay.
But yeah, I was gonna say, like, it's ironic because we're social distancing, but I think we're closer than ever. But I feel, people have come together. I mean, being to different countries, like when I went abroad to Europe, like, it's something like every single country on earth is going through this. So it's another reason for people of the world to come together, because you can meet someone from Serbia or South Africa you've never met before, and yet you've got something in common straight away. You talk about the virus, talk about wearing masks, how annoying they are, and talk about not being allowed to leave and all that stuff. And it's the world. And I hope, like, at the end of this, like, they can do a lot of events celebrating the end of it, or like also a lot of memorials mourning the people who've lost their lives. And because the claps on the street, I mean, that's such an amazing thing. Like, the idea that everyone in the country would clap outside of their doors for the NHS. That's something every time it happened, I was it brought me back to, like, the present moment. I just thought and like sit back and thought, like, oh my god, this is crazy. The idea everyone's here together clapping outside, that's not something that happens normally, right? Like, it's brought a lot of new experiences this year particularly.
Like, regardless of race, religion, ethnicity, gender, we're all just brought together, standing in line, all working together, all supporting the NHS, all looking out for one another to some degree or another. And I think it's just bringing us together. And then there's also, I think, at the back of my mind, I was also thinking that, well, why have we been placed in this scenario? And I think God has placed us in this scenario because he wants us to derive a valuable lesson from this. There's many things that we can learn from this. For instance, we could be more empathetic towards others as a result of this. Where, as as a community, I don't think we're empathetic enough now. But now, as a result of experiencing these troubled times and this hardship, we're going to be looking out for each other more. We're going to be more kind. We're going to be more caring. We're going to be more friendly, and we're going to be much more understanding of the illnesses and diseases that others are experiencing, and looking out for them far more so than we otherwise would have, because of this scenario that we are going through and going to go through.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you have to try to find the positives in everything, and I feel like I've always thought, like, again, if I go back to like my grandmother's stories about the war, I always feel like our generation is quite soft to some degree, and I feel like if one positive to this bad thing happening is people are like, people are gonna be stronger than this. It's gonna take. I feel like people our age, the internet going out for an evening was quite an unsurmountable task to get through. whereas now you're having like 6 months particularly indoors or nothing. That's hard. That's the hard thing to get through. I feel like people are gonna come the other end, and they would have, and when people have the hard times in their lives, they can think, well, at least I can walk outside, at least I'm allowed out, at least there's no, at least I'm not worried for my grandparents' safety every time I leave, every time I'm on the bus. So I think it's another way for people to be more thankful about the things people took for granted, like going out, speaking to your friends, going to school, going to work. The things we all took for granted, now when we're allowed to do them, will mean so much more. So I think, yeah, that's, again, it brings us back down to earth again, makes us more thankful for everything ever before.
Yeah, I used to adhere to the David Goggins mindset that people aren't tough enough, or they're just being soft and weak. But going through this and feeling sad and not feeling as good as I otherwise would have, because of the fact that I'm not doing as many physical activities as before, I feel like I've adopted a new mindset. Instead of having the feeling, an expression that, oh, people aren't just tough enough, they aren't putting in enough work, they aren't looking after themselves enough. The issue is far more complex than the simple narrative that people aren't putting enough work. So instead of thinking that, I've now deconstructed that mindset and reconstructed a new one that adheres to my worldview much more. And I really, really believe that what we should be doing is looking out for mindsets that adhere to our values, our tradition, culture, and what we deep down believe. Because I feel like nowadays we're basically just regurgitating information. Back in the olden days, when we had the great thinkers like Leonardo da Vinci, Galileo, Sir Isaac Newton, and Einstein, they all came up with ideas of their own. They had to go against the prevailing ideas of the time, think for themselves, do research, do experiments. But I think and come to their own conclusion. And I think we too, as people, should do that. We shouldn't just take what we listen on the news and just adopt it. Take what we read in books and adopt it. What we should do is take it. Don't cling to it too harshly, but experiment with it. Look around. Don't be skeptical of it, but also at the same time, look around for other potential mindsets and ideas that are better than that one. And when you find that one, find a mindset that is better than that particular one, then you take that one and you discard the other. And so I've taken the empathetic mindset and discarded the harsh mindset that people aren't working hard enough, because really deep down, you don't know what people are going through, and you don't know the level of suffering that an individual is experiencing. Some people just simply don't have enough time. They don't have enough education. They don't have the resources. They don't have the money. And I know it sounds like I'm making excuses and all this, but deep down, it's sometimes almost impossible for an individual to bring his life up to the standard that you like, because of the psychological and physiological suffering that he's going through, and the limited amount of resources that the universe has provided him with. And that, unfortunately, can be the sad truth. And sometimes we should look towards that person and say that it's okay to be sad, it's okay to be suffering, it's okay to feel all this stuff, but we're here to help you, man. Like, recently we've had the suicide of I think it's Rekful online. I think Rekful is a famous streamer online that he's actually passed away, sadly. And so we, like, Dr. K, who's a famous online YouTuber, and like qualified psychologist was basically saying, well, it's okay that you're going through this suffering, but don't give up. And if there's anyone else that's doing this, it's okay. If you can't deal with it yourself, then look towards others. Don't make it's fine to make excuses. It's fine to say all this stuff. It's okay to suffer. It's okay for men to cry. Like, it's perfectly fine. But if you need help, look towards others, man. And just, I feel like we should, going off on a tangent, but we should just adopt the mindset that
No, man,
will
this
have.
is good.
That's best for society and optimal for us as well,
Yeah,
simultaneously.
to be honest, like, leading to the best conversations, you'll always end up talking about what, like I said when we were beginning the podcast, even though it might seem like we're just sort of going, oh, how are you, how you doing? But I feel like you always end up talking about what needs to be talking about. We end up saying what needs to be said. So yeah, you've opened up a whole nother conversation. So I think you mentioned David Goggins, and I'll start there because David Goggins, I understand exactly what you meant by that, because I feel like, especially on the YouTube space or like the self-improvement space on the internet, there's this, people have, there are these trends where they've discovered this one thing that is this key to everything, and they're not, because like you said, the world is very, very complicated. Mental health's complicated, confidence is complicated, psychology is complicated. And, you know, like, it's, you know, one day it's meditation, one day it's cold showers, then it's NoFap, then it's David Goggins, then it's Jordan Peterson, dopamine detox. These are all trends, and at the time they think they are the key to everything, but like many things, they're not the key. They're another part of a larger puzzle, which is life and existence. And with the Goggins thing, you take what you learnt from it, which is doing hard things can make you mentally stronger, and which is very useful, but that doesn't completely eliminate the problems of mental well-being and mental health. It just doesn't.
It's like
And
you're like ignoring it, right? Technically.
yeah, well, I mean, to be honest, it's one of those things, like, it's part of the puzzle. There's no answer to mental health. The only answer to mental health is by talking
I'm saying
about
that
it. Yeah.
I'm saying that with the David Goggins mindset, the reason as to why it's not optimal for some people is because of the fact that you're ignoring your own suffering and anguish.
Yeah, that is one of the issues. There are positives, which is like the day-to-day little things don't really get you, which is probably a good thing, because little day-to-day things, they shouldn't make those aren't big groundbreaking things that aren't going to make you depressed. But you cannot just exercise your way through life and not think about anything, because like mental health, I've always seen it's like a creek, you know. If you keep pushing down your emotions, like the lake will get blocked by more and more things, and the water won't flow as well. And every now you just need to open up about your problems, and that allows, you know, the creek to flow more smoothly. And it's like that for mental health. So you just have to open up every now and then about what's bothering you. I do feel proud that we're part of the first generation that is taking mental health seriously, because mental health hasn't really been taken seriously like at any point in human history. Because like the idea of like two men opening up about the problems and one of them crying, the other one comforting them, isn't something that has ever been, well, if 50 years ago that would be seen as very abnormal and not healthy, even though we know that if you have a bereavement or you're depressed, that opening up about it is the way to solve it, and it stops having the power over you. So I'm proud that we're taking mental health more seriously as a society. It's one of the great things we've done in recent years.
Because within olden times, right, if you were to cry, if a man was to cry, then it wouldn't be seen as acceptable in the slightest. Men are supposed to be this tough, strong, solid, family supporting figure, or unit even, that's supposed to be there for the entire family and ignore their own emotions, their needs, their desires, and sacrifice their time in order to support the well-being of the entire family unit. And I think that's definitely true, man.
Yeah, to be honest, like, because we've had a lot, like, masculinity has been questioned a lot, you know, and there were people a lot talking about toxic masculinity around the problems of domestic abuse and sexual assault, and the fact that men don't open up about their feelings to the level that will probably be psychologically healthy. And I think there is definitely room for like a critique of how men have been portrayed or like have been seen to live in the history. And but as many things, I feel like masculinity, femininity are it's like a box, whereas I feel like people are very complicated, and I feel like if I could say everything it meant to be a man, it'd be I'd have a lot to say. I wouldn't be able to just list it in a couple traits.
But then again, I suppose there's no one. There's not like a particular set of components is not going to result in you constructing the perfect man. I think there's no such thing as the perfect man. It all depends on the scenario in which he's placed, right? For instance, if you were to place your perfect man A, say, let's say with confidence, good money, good health, good money, good health,
big man on the bike. That's a real man in the bike.
And then if you were to place him within, let's see, confidence, good money, good health, if you were to place him within, let's say, Africa, in a poor, deprived part of the country, in which has little resources, little support, very poor financial institutions, poor sanitation, poor health, he may not necessarily be the correct man for that scenario, because in that scenario, you may need a man who's qualified in, need a man that's qualified in medicine. Even though he's got good money, good health, good finances, if he's a construction worker, or if he's a man who owns a plumbing company, he may not be best suited to that scenario. And he may not be very empathetic deep down. If you have a lot of people suffering there, psychologically and physiologically, that's not going to help them in any way whatsoever. So I think it's best to look at which parts work where, and adjust your attitude and adjust your own components in relation to the environment that is, or adjust the components so that you suit the environment perfectly that you're placed within.
Yeah, I've thought a lot about, like, there's all these, I mean, I'm obviously guilty of this, but there's all these how to be alpha videos, and obviously I did put that in my title of one of my videos to get some views. But I feel like like men are searching for answers to some degree, and I feel like that's one reason Peterson became so famous, because he was teaching men about responsibility. He was filling holes about things that weren't being told to men at school or by the parents anymore. And we have lost things as we have progressed, but we've gained things. And I do feel like one thing, I've thought a lot about what it means to be a man, what it means to be like manly and masculine. And I feel like there is definitely some perception of always having to be strong, never showing weakness. Whereas I really think a man who is willing to show vulnerability in front of other people is actually more confident than the guy who won't show any weakness at all, because the fear of, if I show weakness, then people will take that weakness and use it against me. But a man who can open up in front of other people and isn't scared to show some vulnerabilities, I think that's a deeper trust and confidence in themselves and around other people, that I'm gonna say these things, and I'm not gonna, if people might laugh, people might take them, but it's okay, because I have the confidence to let these things out, and the confidence to actually not be the center of attention and not always be the big toughest guy in the room all the time. I feel like a lot of men who always feel like they have to be the alpha in every situation and have to be the loudest, the center of attention, I feel like it comes from a place of insecurity. It comes from a place of lack of self-worth in some situations.
Like within this scenario, if you were to speak with me a few years ago, I probably would have not liked the power dynamic of this talk we're having, because I'm not the center of attention. But now that I'm perfectly acceptable with that, I'm perfectly accepting of that, because at the end of the day, it's I read a few books and it's like, oh, it's not. And I contemplated this, would it be really worth it? What are you achieving as a result of becoming this alpha, becoming this center of attention?
Yeah.
It's not worth it. It's shallow. It's meaningless. It limits the happiness that an individual has within their own life, because eventually you come to the realization that you're only doing it for the approval and validation of others, which is as worthless as dirt. And even dirt is more worth. Technically, dirt has a value in and of itself, and that's even higher than being an alpha, right? Well, technically, there are some things that you can actually achieve as a result of being alpha, and perhaps that would result in more financial prosperity, more being more healthy. But psychological health deteriorates as a result of that. And I suppose psychological health deteriorates. But I suppose it technically depends on the individual, because it depends on the extent to which you become the alpha. It depends on the components, like you said, the components that you're adjusting, the extent to which you're adjusting them, and the scenario in which you're placed. Because if you're placed in a scenario in which being an alpha is advantageous for you and ensures your own survival, then that could be good. And so therefore the psychological suffering that you're imposing upon yourself because of that may be worth it in the long term, because it ensures your survival in the long term, and in the short term it's not so bad.
Yeah, this is very complicated. It's something that I'm glad we're talking about, because I'd love to make future videos about this topic as well, about masculinity and what it means to men. I mean, obviously, I mean, I'm not a woman, otherwise I'll probably do it about what it means to. But the thing is, I mean, I've thought about. I'm not sure if there needs to be like definite. A woman shouldn't, like a woman. If a woman was acting like me or you, or was like an alpha, they would get sort of a different kind of criticism, not because they're being too alpha or too center intentionally, because they're not being womanly. And I thought, like, if I raised a daughter, I wouldn't want that daughter to feel like they couldn't act in a certain way, or they had to act in a certain way because they're a woman, which, I mean, so that was a way of, because I've never had a sister, and if I had a sister, I'd want that to be like, I wanted to, you know, people in general, the traits that make good people are the same for men and women. Like, you know, strong person who can go through hard times, or like a courageous person who can fight through fear and get through hard times in their life, but they're also comfortable and confident enough to be kind to others and stuff. So I feel like we maybe get too obsessed with masculinity potentially, but I mean, a lot of men who are searching to be more masculine is just because they're kind of insecure about themselves, or they're not maybe getting girlfriends and stuff, and they feel like they need to become. I mean, I've definitely fallen into that trap where I feel like I have to be more of a man in order to attract more women, even though, you know, that's not necessarily going to be the case. But like you said, it boils down to what situation are you in? Because if we were cavemen, then the old classic masculine traits, which is having to be strong, physically strong, mentally strong, having to be courageous, and having to have skill in certain things, that's everything. That's way more important than emotional intelligence or kindness or any of that stuff. But we don't live in that world anymore. We don't live in that world anymore. So those traits, they're not as needed by society, and they're not actually given as much validation anymore by society. And our society is transitioning. But remember that there's an old adage which is like strong men win the war to create the great society. The great society causes the men to become weak again, and then the weak men mess the society up again, and then the strong men have to create another. So that's the thing, is this cycle where it's like the phrase, it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. So we have to be careful. Like I said, maybe we probably are too soft in some ways, but then again, if it's allowed us to make certain progress on things like mental health and gender relationships as well. So I think it's positive for sure.
Yeah, I think, if a person, regardless of gender, they can be whoever they want. And they can have whatever attitude they want, they can have whatever personality they want, they can do whatever they want. They shouldn't be judged for what they're doing at all, I think. Well, it depends on what their actions are, and within the law, of course.
Well, hopefully,
if they're acting within the boundaries of the law, then of course they're going to have to be judged and brought to justice, because that's unacceptable. But that's a debate for another day, because that also depends on the scenario in which you're placed. For instance, sometimes you have to steal bread in order to prevent your family from starving, right? So, like in the olden days.
Yeah, I mean, I would have
starvation.
I would have done that. I would have stolen bread for my family.
So there's no such thing as good. There's no such thing as good and bad. It always depends on the perspective from which you look at it, like I'm saying. So sure. I'm going off on a tangent again, but coming back to what I was saying, it's perfectly okay. It's perfectly acceptable, and it's perfectly fine for an individual to act however he wants to, of course, except if it's reasonable and it's within the boundaries of the law, of course, and it's fine. If and it doesn't matter upon the gender as well, because when it should be done for the soul. At the end of the day, we're all human beings, and we're all looking to see what generates the highest level of utility and happiness for us. So if behaving in a certain way, if it's masculine or it's feminine, It's perfectly fine. Just it depends on you. It depends on the individual. They should not be judged for it. You should not be looking for the approval and validation of others. You should be looking deep down for who you want to be, what you want to do, and what generates the highest level of happiness and utility for you as a person, and then look towards the rest of society and see the way by which you can utilize that, monetize that, and generate value for the rest of society. Coming back to the other issue which we were talking about, saying how many men may be looking towards alpha videos because of the fact that they are insecure. I think that might be an oversimplistic analysis of what's happening here, because as we've said, there's a multitude of reasons as to why it can occur. For instance, if you have a man looking towards that kind of video, he may actually be going towards that video because that may be the best video for him to be looking towards, or maybe he may be lacking direction in life, and so that may be one component which he needs to get in place before he moves on to the next. Or he may be looking towards direction because he's unconfident in his own judgments, unconfident in his own abilities. But of course, that conforms to the idea of insecurity. So it's insecurity, maybe insecurity in one way or another. It may be as a result of a multitude of other factors which we don't have the ability to comprehend using our own intellectual faculties.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna steal you. Obviously, that could have been one of many factors. But I'm gonna nick a phrase from Jordan Peterson, one of his biggest phrases, which it's a very simplistic analysis of a more complex multivariate equation, which is very true. People like to do that at all. And I've talked from personal experience. Like, I'd watch a lot of those videos, and part of it was coming from like a lack maybe of insecurity. But like an insecurity, I feel like that word is too powerful. Like, people don't admit they have any insecurities. It's like, everyone has insecurities. I try. It's not a dirty word. Like psychologically, we're always going to be dealing with certain. Like, all insecurities are where in your brain you're not completely happy with things you do or things you are. So you're not going to be completely satisfied all the time. So they all have insecurities. So like, if I feel like sometimes if you say, maybe if you say to someone, maybe that's just you're being insecure about that, is people can take it to heart, because it's been used as quite a powerful word recently. But I feel like people need to, another thing to help with mental health is just for everyone to accept that everyone has insecurities, and how you tackle those insecurities is actually the difference between the good and a bad person. Because if that insecurity of not being a strong enough man leads you to, some men, it leads them to be prone to violence and aggression, or some men, they can deal with those insecurities and find some further self-confidence. So dealing with your insecurities is the difference between good and bad people sometimes. So I feel like people should be honest with themselves and be humble about themselves and realize they're not perfect. They do have issues that they're dealing with, and I feel that can help people a lot.
I was coming back to the previous point of going off on a tangent again, but
well, to be honest, like the podcast is honestly, if you ever watch Joe Rogan, it's tangent. Like, that's natural conversations flow like that. So honestly, like, if you've got something to say it. Like, we're not sticking to topics, and we're going to cover. I've watched podcasts, 2-hour podcasts, where they've covered like 55 different topics. They covered like their childhood, politics, where they're living, different countries, jiu-jitsu, all this stuff. So yeah, we can talk about whatever. We can go to different things and then come back. So say whatever you want to say.
Okay, so
you haven't lost your frame of mind. You lost your train of thought here.
Yeah, talking about tangents, but I was thinking about it, and the fact that it's perfectly fine and perfectly acceptable, it's perfectly good for an individual to act however he wants, for as long as it's within the boundaries of the law. Yeah. If a person wants to be feminine, masculine, it shouldn't matter. I think, to be honest, we all have some aspects of femininity and masculinity mixed within ourselves. Like, we're not perfectly masculine, we're not perfectly feminine. We probably find equilibrium in the middle. Perhaps a large proportion of us find equilibrium within the middle, but then we have a spectrum. We have masculinity on one side, and then we have femininity on the other, and we all have some components of those. But that's what having different people, having different personalities, meeting different people, having different cultures, having different traditions, having different ethnicities, having different values, having different beliefs is what makes people interesting. It's what makes the world amazing. It's what makes the world an enjoyable place to live in, because no two people are identical. People are unique. People have their own personalities. They have their own differences, and that's what brings us together. Allows us to. It makes us harder to see eye to eye to an extent, but we value each other far more as a result of having our own beliefs, identities, values, traditions, cultures, and overall it makes the world a better place to live in as a result of having all these factors coming together and living together in perfect synchronization with one another. And it's just a great thing overall.
No, absolutely. I mean, discovering traveling, because I never really traveled much as a child, but discovering traveling in the last 5 years or so, being to places in Europe, being to China last year, discovering people of new cultures, and also in a way representing my own culture, because when you go to Spain or China as an English person, you're almost sort of, people see you as the English person and you almost representing your country, and it makes me, and every time I go abroad I love it, but I'm also proud to come back to England and glad to come back to my home.
Oh yeah, I've experienced that as well.
Yeah, because it's
really good.
where we're from. It makes me more proud to be English and proud to be where I'm from.
I miss home. After I've traveled abroad, like after I've been abroad for about 3-4 months, I'm like, oh man. And then once
3-4 months to about 2 weeks, I'm like, 2 weeks, like, no. It's not like I want to go back, but after 2 weeks in Spain I was like glad to be back.
No, like it was like I spent like well, I had a gap year technically, so I took a few trips abroad. But once I tried, it was a very good experience for me, because what I did, I went to the country, met new people, talked to new people, experienced new cultures, saw new mindsets, saw new identities, saw new personalities, and I looked at the way by which they integrate themselves within society, the role they play, the effect that they have on other people, and the effect that they're having on society as a whole. And you can see things on the smaller scale, but then on the larger scale as well. And then you can see, once you've seen how this individual is reacting with another and interacting with another, you learn new things, you see new ways by which you behave. It's hard to explain, to be honest. You've seen these things,
I know exactly exactly the experience,
because of the sheer complexity of it and the way by which it's working within the microscopic level and the macro level as well. But once you can learn new things, you can take new things, you can integrate them as part of yourself, and once it's like learning and taking from others technically at some level. Once you see something amazing within another person, you try and integrate that within your own self to an extent. And then you take all these new things that you've learned from new countries, you take them back to your own country and try to reapply them there, and to see the way by which it works at a macroscopic level, microscopic level, and the way by which they affect your own health, well-being, psychological well-being, and financial prosperity, mental prosperity. And it's just a great thing overall to do.
That's great.
And you enjoy home so much more because of the fact that you feel like you've gone through an evolutionary cycle where you've learned new things and you've adopted them, and now you're taking them back home. So it's kind of like going on a mission for gold. It's like digging out gold and seeing where the treasure is, taking the treasure back home and sharing it with your family and your community as well. What's the type of stuff you learned though when you went on holiday? What do you feel? Maybe I didn't feel I did.
Exactly the same, but I think you hit the nail on the head there, because the reason for some people, especially if they're glad to come home, it's the reason why it feels like they come back to a place that they've been before, but they feel that they are different than when they left. That's the blueprint for every movie you've ever watched. It's the hero's journey, which is you start at one place, you have a struggle or a journey. It doesn't have to be a struggle, because it can just be a holiday. But especially if you're like by yourself, not with parents, just lying on a resort. It's if you go to a different country and meet loads of new people and learn new things, and you come back home, you feel like you're different than when you left, and you feel like you've been on the journey, so you have the pride of coming back ready to start again. I think that's exactly what it is. It's we're on our own hero's journey in our lives. I feel like seeing your life as like its own movie is a great way of viewing your experience, and we have all these little moments of growth. And I always had that as a child. Like when I'd go somewhere, I'd be like, I haven't been here since I was 2 years ago, and I've grown so much. I've always taken a lot of value from that. And I mean, you asked me about what I feel like on holiday, and I mean, whether it's in Europe or China, meeting all these people from different cultures and different countries, and to be honest, it's just like showing that no matter where you are in the world, I can make friends with people was kind of very reaffirming, and gave me confidence when I went back into uni. Gave me confidence to be myself more. instead of having to always, because sometimes you can put on a persona around people to try to, get them to like you. I mean, everyone falls for that. And going to China for a month on a summer school in a university in China, not knowing one person, and leaving, with 50 to 100 new friends / acquaintances, by, meeting all these new people, having all these new conversations, it gives you confidence that, to be yourself and not to try to put on an act. Because I feel like, going back to we were talking about before, I feel like sometimes for me as well, personally, like, and for a lot of men as well, like, a feeling of like insecurity, or not in certain moments not feeling like enough, and putting on an act or trying to be something just to try to make yourself feel safe and feel confident.
I think.
Yeah.
Oh, can I go on? Oh no,
Yeah,
no, I don't know. Okay. It's coming to what you said, adding to what you said. Actually, I think yes, some men don't feel like they're enough, and like I think that's why we should make therapy compulsory, because like therapy is exceptional. Like, you understand things about yourself that you don't have the ability to see, because once you go to therapy, it's like a mirror being placed towards you and upon you. Because once you're within your own mind, within your own state, doing your daily activities, interacting with other people and working throughout society, you don't have the ability to see yourself. You're always looking outward. You're looking, like, it's easy for me and you to analyze others, but we don't have the ability to analyze ourselves in as much accuracy or detail, because of the fact that we don't have enough consciousness of our own self. But when we discuss things with others, we deconstruct bad ideas we're having, we deconstruct our own insecurities, and we see things from alternate perspectives, and we have the ability to accept ourselves fully as how we are. When you're developing your psyche from a relatively young age, if you develop it with the help of other people's within a healthy and safe environment, then eventually you become a productive, positive, constructive member of society that's going to be sharing his own like how we are looking towards others in order to integrate and like take ideas from others and adopt them as for our own self. Other people will be looking towards us. For instance, we have role models, we have people who inspire us, and people we look towards. Perhaps we have Peterson, Goggins, and other people, but within our own lives, at a more microscopic level, we have our adults, we have uncles, we have aunties, we have grandpa, we have grandma, and we look towards those people for ideas, knowledge, wisdom. And when we deal with our own problems, that permeates that solution, then solves a lot of people for other people as well, because of that, the fact that your own well-being and happiness permeates throughout society and positively impacts a society in a way that we don't have the ability to foresee.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
sorry for the interruption.
No, you didn't interrupt me at all. Just if you're talking about like the health system, I think like you see the dentist once every 6 months, once a year, compulsory, or not compulsory, but it's very good. It's pretty bad form not to be honest. And you probably, in America, you go for your yearly physical. Like, I think you should go for your 6 months like therapy check, and then from there they can see, if you need more. But the thing is, I don't know, because I think that would work, because everyone needs it. I don't think there's ever a person where they're like, no, I don't need therapy ever. Like, I don't think you could be too mentally healthy. I don't think you can. I think there's always stuff to work on.
Yeah, there's always problems.
I feel like I think that's one thing America are ahead of England in one sense. There's more people it's to go to therapy is much more part of the culture in America than it is in England. And I feel like like psychology, and I mean I spoke to someone at uni once, and it's great. And that's why I love having these deep, meaningful conversations, because they're therapeutic by nature. I think that's why someone like Joe Rogan is weirdly becoming one of like a very wise man and a very mentally healthy man, because he's having all these deep conversations with all these smart people and
learning a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it's the Einstein, right? It's you stand on the shoulders of giants. So we take all little bits from all these different places, from religion or from Peterson, Goggins. I'm not part of religion doesn't add up to Peterson. All these different
depends on your religion. You might be worshipping him.
But like Peterson, Goggins, all these different people, like all the people who practice meditations, all these YouTubers who make videos, or you learn new things from new people, and you take little bits and bits and bits and bits, and then you add it up, and you become wiser and wiser and wiser as you grow. And McConaughey had a great speech where he said, my role model is me when I'm 35. So that's the same for me. So when I'm 30, I'm thinking how wise I will be by that point, because I feel like I've learned a lot in like the last couple of years moving.
Do you journal at all?
Yeah, I've done it off and on.
How do you do your journal? How do you do that?
Like when I did, I would just write whatever's on my mind. Probably best in the evenings or the morning after, but just write down whatever I can think of that, or like if I've got. Sometimes having it maybe on your phone's a good idea, because then you can whip it out whenever something hits you. But yeah, just again, it's just another form of writing things down and getting them off your chest. Because when you speak an idea, it doesn't have power over you anymore. When you can speak that idea into existence, you're basically telling your subconscious mind, this isn't that big of a deal. I can talk about it openly. It's not going to harm me. So yeah, journaling's great. Got cars and shit. Fucking house.
That's okay. I'm enjoying this conversation. It's actually feeling a lot more natural.
That's what I was trying to make, because I was talking to Amir before, to the viewers. I was talking to Amir before the podcast, trying to put our finger on something we could do to improve the podcast, which is very difficult, trying to out-analyze about your own videos about yourself, but thinking like, because I had a great meaningful conversation with a roommate of mine, and I just in that moment
in this house or the
in this house with I won't mention names just in case he doesn't want to be talked about on the internet, but like we talked about each other's lives, and he talked about not knowing what to do at uni, and not knowing to do with the future, which is every uni student can relate to that. If you ask a uni student what do you do after uni, like so
that's me.
And in that deep conversation, I was just like, this moment right here, when you're in that, Peterson describes it. I know I mentioned not, but he's pretty good. He says there's a feeling you get in yourself when you're in these deep conversations and you're talking about the right things. You just have this feeling where you're spending your time right, and you feel like it's meaningful. There's meaning in this conversation. I feel it right now opening up these interesting conversations, and in that conversation I was like, this conversation right here, these 2 hours is worth more than 100 videos where you read from a script, because sometimes that's why podcasts have become so successful, I think, because it allows viewers to tap into these meaningful conversations other people are having without even knowing them. But you're getting millionaires, successful people in every field can come together and have talks about deep ideas, and you can listen into that. I mean, it's fantastic.
Someone outside your window?
Yeah, just the fans of the podcast and all that. Oh, yeah, fuck, I wish, man get like.
Yeah, it's probably more like the postman, man.
Yeah, I get treated like the Beatles. They can't get rid of them.
Postman's like, what are you doing, man? Just keep your distance.
What's this guy talking?
Let's be socially distancing.
That's the thing about in England. If you start in England, anything that's kind of weird socially, everyone's like, "What the fuck you doing?" We got podcasts for. We're doing that. We got podcasts. No one's care about. But like American people, like, go on then, do that. You can, American dream. If you're in England, I was like, what you? Yeah. But I do feel like it's something you have to get past a little bit. I don't know. I've never lived in America. This is my
like Peterson says, or like you say, oversimplistic analysis of a multivariant equation.
That's one thing. We humans, we're very good at that.
I learned that today, actually. That's actually quite good. I remembered that. I'm going to use that from now on. Yeah.
That was because I mean, when our brains, there aren't that many people who actually have like IQs, or like, I don't say IQs because it sounds snobbish, but there aren't that many people who will sit down and have thought out discussions with nuance and complex detail, because people with their beliefs, they tend to have that part of their identity, whereas if you question their beliefs, they'll take it as a slight against them as a person. I feel like that's why everyone's getting offended nowadays, because if you disagree with some of their points politically, it's like they take it as a slight against their own person. So it's, I feel like we need to be able to have a genuine exchange of ideas like we have it now. We're just giving out thoughts and ideas, whereas these are just thoughts in a vacuum. Some of them good, some of them aren't, but I'm trying not to have a filter and thinking, oh god, what's this person going to think about it?
It's like what we talked about, right? We looked towards The Last Dance because of the fact that it provides us, well, Russell Brand was saying this, is that it provides us with rubrics and metrics for our own lives, and we take lessons from that and apply them to our own lives. And the reason as to why we have deep, meaningful conversations about politics, about religion, about whatever topic you'd like to discuss, is because of the fact that we wish for it to evolve. We're looking for the right answer. It's like what we talked about in relation to our own lives. What we do is we put mindsets, we put beliefs, we put traditions within our own mind, and we stick to those for a particular period of time, but we shouldn't be too rigid. We shouldn't be too attached to them, because eventually at some point they're going to have to evolve and they're going to have to be swapped out for something else, right? So
No, absolutely.
That's why we're having these deep, meaningful conversations, is because other people have different beliefs, different ideas, different traditions, different traditions
I don't know what
about different things, right? So
yeah,
what I'm thinking may not necessarily be what you're thinking, and what you are thinking may be optimal for all of us, right? Or maybe optimal for other people. And so we need this discussion to be taking place so that we become cognizant of the different options that are available to ourselves to adopt.
Yeah,
and for us to take out the components that were unnecessary before and replace them with something that's advantageous or superior to that.
Absolutely. I feel like it makes me excited to do more podcasts. To think that we could have, 100. If we keep this going, we could have 100 of these frigging things. And in fact, having 100 meaningful conversations, you're going to learn some shit. And also having guests on, we can learn new things from new people and expand our knowledge, and hearing different perspectives from, because you're talking from your own perspective, your genes, your family, but also the environment you're born in, your experiences. And I'm talking from mine, and you learn because, every person you talk to will have a different perspective than you, and they come from a different place, they have different experiences in their life, so they will have a different thing to say. Some people are better articulating than others, but I think you can have deep conversation with everyone. I think if you allow them to feel comfortable in the conversation. I think that's what Joe Rogan's so good at, because he allows these guests he's never met, he allows them to just be comfortable in podcast situation, not make it an interview where he's trying to catch them out, make them say, trying to catch them and keep them in traps, accusing them of various misbehaviors. And, he can make them feel comfortable, and they can just have a 2-hour talk between two people. There's no dynamic of power or anything. It's two people, especially because a lot of them are celebrities and they probably never get treated like actual people. It's just talking to them as a person, and people open up because that's what people like to do. They like to connect. And I feel like hopefully me and you get some guests on, we could hopefully create a nice environment where guests can open up about their own experiences and you can learn things. I would love to have anyone who wants to be on the podcast, comment down below, and like the video just in case everyone's, just to get the likes up and all that. But
we'd appreciate little subscribe here and there as well.
For sure. We have a couple of hundred from left over from when this channel was used by me and I made some videos, so it's kind of hard to see how many people are subscribed for this. But if we get 5 people watching this, right? Let's say right now we have 5 people who watch every single one that comes out, that's fine. There's 5 people watching and they like it. That's great. So just build from there. Start humble. There's no need to be famous or anything. Because we enjoy making it anyway. So we'll keep doing it, and hopefully try to balance it well with uni and see if we can get these episodes pumping out. Again, because I'm going away.
I think it's going to be better though, because when we're going to uni and when we're
new stuff to talk about, isn't it?
Yeah, we're going new stuff to talk about, and we're gonna have our day-to-day life, and we're gonna be learning stuff from our day-to-day life and taking it from that interaction that we're having, and then coming back and giving it out to the audience and so giving them a useful piece of information.
Yeah. That's definitely true, man. Definitely, because they're having all this new shit, talking to people, having like lectures, stuff, maybe having a part show job on the side. There's so much stuff that happens. God, I would love to have the podcast this year. I had so much stuff to get off my chest. You learn things every day that, little bits and bobs, try to be better today than you were tomorrow. There's always things to talk about. Yeah, that's good, man. This is, I don't know how long
it's so good though, because when you think about it, there's way more stuff that we don't know than we know. So like the universe is the limit. Yeah. Like the quantity that we don't know is like the size of the universe. Like and we still don't even know how big how many other planets out there, because we don't know. We haven't gone that far yet, right? So imagine how much we could learn.
Our brains, man. Our brains aren't built to actually understand size difference between things. Like, have you seen the video of the grains of rice? with Jeff Bezos's wealth. It's like
Oh yes,
every
I've
grain
seen
of rice is
similar
worth like
videos.
100,000. Yeah, like every grain of rice is 100,000. And this like Jeff Bezos' wealth is like more rice than 2 kilograms of rice or some shit. Like if you did that for how big the Earth is compared to how big the universe is, it's too big for our brains to comprehend. And there's this life, like we're figuring out as we go along. That's one thing, like in the
But then
society,
again,
we figure shit out as we go along.
Elon Musk recently, apparently he's developing chips for us to implant within our own brains so that we become like as smart as computers. So.
Tell you what, that sounds like sci-fi shit. Are you sure that's real?
Yeah, you can search
that sounds like that sounds like Star Trek, isn't it? You know what I mean?
But then a lot of people are developing conspiracy theories in relation to that matter. But I don't want to speculate or go into any of that at the moment. Well, because it's too complex for me to understand.
Yeah,
and I don't know.
I understand why. I won't obviously talk about. Oh, sorry. No, I'll just get a bit interference. No problem. In terms of like any time where if you put something in your brain, you'd be giving someone a lot of trust. I think that's just where that's coming from. I trust people. I trust Elon Musk to make as much money as he can. I'm not going to trust him as a good heart. That's the thing. Like, I'm not going to go out to a tangent about how much corporations like fuck people over, because everyone knows that. That's not what if you want to hear that stuff, you can watch BBC News. But I don't actually know how long this has been going, because it doesn't show how long you've been recording for. It's 6. We're recording this.
We started at like 5, right? Let me check.
Start about 5, yeah. Because we can go as much as we want. Yeah. There's really no limitation. I mean,
yeah, I need to get going.
Are playing Real Madrid.
I'm getting fried up here in this area that I'm staying in. It's double the heat downstairs. Downstairs, man. That's why I got my fan on full blast here.
Yeah, I can hear for sure like it's so hot, right? And also we got Real Madrid playing Man City, so I can't do it forever.
I might watch that. I don't know.
Yeah, great.
I don't know. Like my brothers are all really into football, and my family is already into football, but I'm not too into football myself. But I don't really see what people. Because I don't really see what people get from it too much. But then I feel like I
could talk about it if you want.
I might
talk about football for half an hour or so.
I watch it from time to time, and I find it enjoyable because I was watching I watch Arsenal games quite a lot, and I enjoy some of the players playing. Like Aubameyang, apparently, I find really good.
Become an Arsenal fan, man. Become an Arsenal fan. I've been an Arsenal fan for since I was a kid. So all my life I've been a big Arsenal fan. So we'd be happy to have you, mate.
I'm watching a bit of. Have you seen AFTV?
Oh, I love them. They're so good. They're so good. I love ATV. You got Troops, DT. Troops is like Obama black light. Yeah, I love it.
Oh yeah, I saw that yesterday. That's quite funny.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Aubameyang's class. I mean, if you talk about football, I could talk about
Aubameyang's pace is amazing though.
He's
lightning fast.
He's honestly I think he's the best striker in the Premier League. Like the guy scored 55 goals in 75 games. How old is he again?
He's
31 now. So basically Arsenal are trying to get him to sign on for 3 years, and if he would sign on for 3 years, he would be until he retires probably. So that's a big. If you hear Aubameyang signs, that's a big deal. Without his goals, it would be in a very bad spot. And with him, he scored 2 goals in the FA Cup final. Clutch. That's Messi, Ronaldo stuff. But I could talk about why people like football. I mean, it's ingrained in certain families and it's always been in England. If you look at the history of England, it's always been, a very working class sport, for normal average people, they go watch their football teams, because maybe they're stuck in jobs they don't like as much, or they're working long hours to provide for their families. But people, they're proud to be where they're from, and I know everyone now supports Man United, but these big teams, but you used to support your local team down the road, and it'd be like us against them in competition, and humans arrange themselves into us and them all the time. That's why racism, sexism, all this stuff, we arrange ourselves into groups. Like we evolved in tribes, we evolve in groups. So that football teams are another branch of that. People love to, you know, group themselves and have like us versus them, and come on, we can beat them, we're better, you know. And and if it's something like football, I think it's great. I mean, I could talk to anyone, any dude in England who likes football. I've never met him, but I can have a good conversation with him just from that.
Yeah, that's why I was considering watching football, not because of the fact that I enjoy it, but because of the fact that it allows me to relate to people much more and have a thing to talk about in conversation as well. Because then I just have that one bit more to talk about.
Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, Arsenal. Yeah. There's so many people that like I've met them at uni or something, and then they're like, oh, they're a Man United fan. I'll be like, oh, you twat. But like, even if you diss them, but it's like it's out of love. So like football fans, they love the banter between football teams. It's like the banter between countries. When I was in France, they kept making English jokes and I kept making French jokes. It's brilliant. But yeah, I mean, pick a team, whatever team that is, and watch the games, and then
I think I might watch the game today then, just to get at it. So I do watch the games from time to time, and my family tries to encourage me to watch the games, just because they enjoy it as well. They're Arsenal fans.
They're Arsenal fans. I knew. That's why I must have wanted you on the podcast. Something in the ether somewhere. When this guy is the right guy for it, and you're an Arsenal. Your parents are Arsenal fans, of course. You're wearing red. 1 second, if I just represent quickly. I just got to represent this guy quick, you know. A Bambi shirt, my guy, yeah. that shirt costs way too much money. It was like £60. But,
wow, man.
Oh,
most people get fakes. So I think some people get fakes though as well.
Yeah, if I can find if I lived in London and there were like all these shops with fake shirts, I'd get them too. But I don't live in London, but yeah, man, just watch the games, man. I mean, it's nice having watched football, and also like you can watch it with guys. I remember when last year I'd watched them at the pub with the guys. It's nothing better. Like, you know, when England are in the World Cup semi-final and you have a big group of people having a couple of pints watching England play, it's nothing better.
Yeah, the commentary seems to be really fun. Like I enjoy having watching a game with family and friends. It's
brilliant.
Gather together and commenting on like what's happening.
It's great, like, you know,
fun.
This is what I grew up with. My dad was always, obviously I'm an Arsenal fan, and I always will be, but my dad supported Luton, our local team, pretty much. They are championship now. They're quite a good team, but when I grew up, they weren't. They were like 3 leagues below that, so they were sort of, we went to see them because it's very cheap. It's not like seeing Arsenal was expensive. We go there. I've probably been to that game about 50 times. Going with my dad and my brother, a thing we can do together, and you know, you do all the chanting and singing and shouting when you score. It's nothing better than the English football game.
What ended up drawing you towards Arsenal? Why did you want to support Arsenal then?
Well, when I grew up, my dad's team they were like, I don't know how much you know about football, but they were below League Two. They weren't even a professional league at that point. So they weren't like a team who they would never be on TV. No one would ever heard of them. And everyone in my school, they picked like one of the bigger teams. And yeah, my dad used to go watch the Arsenal play. They're the biggest team near where they're the best. They're the closest good team to me. I mean, I would support Watford, but my dad's a Luton fan, so I can't support Watford because they're rivals. So the only other big team near me is Arsenal. I grew up in Hertfordshire. There's a lot of Arsenal fans in Hertfordshire because it's just above London, and Arsenal's North London. So yeah, there's a lot of people where I'm from support the Arsenal.
Yeah, I think a lot of people from Hertfordshire do support Arsenal, right?
Yeah,
it's like a majority there, I think.
Yeah, because it's just above London, and because they're a big team, and if London's quite, even though London has so many, there's like Tottenham or Arsenal, there's Chelsea, West Ham. So just because you're from London, you might not even support Arsenal. So a lot of people around them support Arsenal as well. But yeah, football's great, man. I always encourage people to get into it.
I don't know. I feel like I'm one of those people that likes playing the sport more than actually watching it.
Yeah.
What about you?
No, I enjoy playing football.
Do you enjoy playing more than watching sports, or do you enjoy watching sports more than playing?
It depends. I mean, I did play as a kid, and I did like it quite a lot. I might even start when uni starts up. I might try to join football again. But I mean, okay, we had the FA Cup final. I'd much rather watch Arsenal win the FA Cup than play a random football game for sure. So maybe that's answered your question. I don't know. But
what's your favorite sport? What's your favorite sport? I want to know that.
What, to play or to watch?
Both. Tell me both, and then we'll see.
Well, I used to be an avid badminton player. You're probably quite surprised about that.
No, badminton's my favorite sport as well, man.
I've got a mad story for you then, because I wanted to be a professional badminton player. I wanted to be an Olympian.
I used to play for a team like I used to play for Sussex badminton team.
Yeah?
Yeah, but that was during the time when I had my had an injury. So I was playing whilst I was injured.
It's funny you should say that, because literally when I was a kid, I stopped playing football and started playing badminton, and I just naturally good at it. My dad used to play, I guess. I played county within the year, and I wanted to be like, I played against guys who were like England players and stuff. I wanted to be professional when I was young. That was actually my big aim when I was a kid.
I never really had an aim though when I was in relation to sports at all. I just it's probably deviated towards what I enjoyed, to be honest.
I wish I could do that more sometimes. I'm such a competitive guy that if I'm doing this, I'm like, I'm gonna be.
But it's like I think I enjoy it because
have fun.
I think I enjoy it. I think you're right. I think I enjoy it because of the competitive nature of the sport.
Yeah.
Like having the ability to like just like beat. I know this doesn't sound good at all. Beat someone at a match. It just feels so good afterwards because of the fact that it reinforces the idea that you're good at this sport and that it gives you like a kind of ego boost in that sense.
No, yeah, I mean,
but that's the reason as to why they're so good. That's why they're so enjoyable, because you get that dopamine hit afterwards.
yeah, absolutely. That's the same thing for football. When your team wins, you're so happy because then when Arsenal wins, I can go have a joke with my friends at school who are Man United fans. Go, I got you 2-0, whatever. That's the thing. So you can have bragging rights a little bit, and then when you lose, you have to eat humble pie for a bit. But
you got to stay quiet.
I mean, you know, Man City are in the semi-final. You know, if they win, they can go be happy. You know, that's the thing about being a football fan. The cool thing is, when I was in Spain, I went to go see the Real Madrid stadium when I was there, the Santiago Bernabeu.
Wow.
Big stadium, beautiful stadium. I got like a Photoshop picture of me like in a Real Madrid shirt, which I wasted 10 euros on. But beautiful stadium, big stadium. They won all these trophies. Ronaldo's not there anymore, but I've always liked Real Madrid because of Cristiano Ronaldo. Is probably the best player I've ever seen play the game. So it's cool that they're going to be on TV, and I've been to the stadium in Spain, so that's dope as hell. Yeah. We can start to wrap this up if you need to go somewhere, man. But this has been probably our best podcast.
I know. We'll probably just speak for 10 minutes after because I'm.
That's fine. This is probably. I think this has been our best podcast. I just feel like we covered a lot.
This is enjoyable. This is a lot more enjoyable now, I think.
It's just natural.
Natural.
Yeah. We have to. To be honest, I trust myself and I trust you that if we talk, we will find stuff to talk about. We're not just people who I don't like talking about the weather. Yeah, you know, if I talk to someone, I might as well make it meaningful about real stuff.
I have talked about the weather before, though. I'm gonna admit that.
When I was in Spain, you got to introduce yourself to people.
When I run out of things to say, I'm like, how's the weather?
Yeah. Well, in England, it's like the weather's good. It's a good day because you know you're happy when it's sunny.
Depends though. It depends on what you. I'm not gonna get into that. Let's wrap this
up.
We're
never gonna stop.
We're gonna go off on another topic.
Yeah. But so yeah, we can sign off if you want. This has been Life Lessons Podcast number 3 from
number 3 guys.
Mark and Amir. Yeah, Mark and Amir would like to.
Well, it depends on your laptop. I'll get into that.
On my screen, which is the one recorded, you're there.
Mine are down there.
Wait, do you want to do a fist one? Do you want to put yours on the? Yeah. There you are. That's that one. Fuck. Mark and Amir signing off.
Good job, man.
So like, subscribe, peace, shower care.
Like and subscribe, everyone. We appreciate all your support. Thank you guys for watching.
Thanks, guys. I'll just move my webcam, but bye-bye, everybody.
Have a good evening.